Poor Tamio is right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. All will be one VML season number 9. Oh my goodness. We're here. We're back. It's happening. Welcome, welcome. Reminder is that we here at the VML are sponsored by Wizards of the Coast and GLHF. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Nicole Callahan, also known as Lady of the Crease. And if you notice now tonight, I have not one, but two lovely casters joining me. Mishamigo, who I've had the pleasure of casting with before in Season 8, and the wonderful Zabracus. Am I pointing the wrong way? I'm going the wrong way. That's okay.
I did the same thing. It's okay.
But and also another caster I have had the pleasure of working with in the past, the lovely Zabracus. My friends, how are you doing tonight? Welcome to well, it's week 3, but it's week 1 of All We Won Standard here at the VML.
I'm doing great. I'm just so happy. This is my first week getting to cast this season, so it's just happy to be here with you and with the lovely Zabracus, because you're both lovely people, and this is gonna be a great week.
I am also doing great. And isn't it just week 2? It feels like it's been 3 weeks, but is it just 2 weeks that we've been in the VML now?
3 weeks of
I could be
VML. This
wrong.
is week 2 of 1.
2 of 1. There we go. Yes, that was it. 3 weeks of VML, 2 of 1.
That is right.
Okay.
So yes,
Well, I'm doing great. How are you ladies doing? You already answered that. I'm gonna not ask that a third time.
Well, we are fabulous. And if you don't know who we are here at the VML, we are a 10-week-long Magic the Gathering Arena League showcasing the talents of the amazing people of marginalized genders within the Magic community. And we start this season with 128 players. Now, this is our second season in a row with such a huge cast of players. It's super exciting. We have 16 divisions. We play round robin within each of those divisions for 7 weeks. We cut off to a playoff of the top 32. We play all that down until there is just one person left, and they take home a really generous cash prize. Again, we are sponsored by Wizards of the Coast and GLHF. Good luck, high five. If you have not checked out that podcast, check them out. Megan and Maria, fantastic people. Maria does some fantastic commentary of her own. They are just wonderful, amazing ladies, and we adore them. So make sure to check that out. And
also, I think their most recent episode, they actually played Commander, which they don't usually do. So if that's also something you're into, they do a variety of content on there. So
yeah,
great people.
Absolutely have to check that out. Yes. And just so you know, it's not just cash that's on the line this season. Top 8 players from each season receive an invite to the VML Championships, a brand new thing we had this year, which is very exciting for us. The top 8 players from seasons 8, 9, and 10 are going to be invited. It's a 24-player invite-only event. The top 2 players at the championships get an invitation to the following Pro Tour. So it's road to the Pro Tour here. It's pretty sweet, honestly.
Kind of a big deal, right?
Kind of a big deal. We are kind of a big deal here at the VML. And one of the big deal things that we've been doing this season, we've been trying out our live matches of Magic here, just broadcast going, not live like paper live, but MTGA Arena Live. So we've got one of those here for you tonight. We're going to be watching Mythic Mikaela against April Norris. We're going to be watching a nice mono blue, mono red matchup, but that will be our first match coming up shortly. Before we get into that, I want to hear what your thoughts are, ladies, on All Will Be One in general. Now that we've kind of we're getting into it, like people are testing the waters, some new cards and things. I know we've seen a little bit of, I want your thoughts on, how about some of our favorite Phyrexians? I want to know about Atraxa Grand Unifier. Like, you see this card, it's a lot of mana, it's a lot of, restraints here. We got to look into it. It's 4 colors, but it seems so powerful. We're seeing it in some of these reanimation shells. Do you think that Atraxa will have as big an impact on Standard as, say, maybe Shieldred did in past Standard? Misha, what do you think?
That's a hard one, because Shieldred's pretty dang strong, and Atraxa, you got 4 colors there, so it's a little bit difficult just if you're trying to cast her. On the other hand, we are seeing her in these Reanimator decks, so you can really like whittle it down and just, throw her into the graveyard and bring her back. You don't actually have to go 4 colors to have a 4-color card in your deck, right? Whereas Shieldred, you could be mono black and you're golden. Like, get her out turn 4 and just start, gain and drain. And so it's difficult because you got 2 extremely powerful cards, very different casting costs, very different casting colors. So, I'm very excited to see some Atraxa action because I've seen a lot of Shieldred action, and I think I need to see more to make a more informed decision.
What do you think, Zabracus? Is Shieldred still the most powerful Phyrexian in Standard?
I don't know if the Shieldred is the most powerful Phyrexian in Standard, especially since there's so many now. If we're counting Planeswalkers, do they count? Do they count now since they've been completed? Are they considered Phyrexians?
Are we talking Praetor? Well, I guess
I don't know.
I guess
Are
it's a
they?
Praetor. She's just a Phyrexian. So
I'm not sure. Like, is Vraska a Phyrexian now? Is that we're gonna like put that? Is Vraska on the
I
scale?
don't know. So anyone who wants to answer that question for us, and me particularly, I would love to know.
I suppose, are we talking like, card type? Because then you got Planeswalkers, whereas, Phyrexian is a prototype of a creature type. So
Yes. So,
but in general, I think Atraxa is definitely going to be an interesting card. But like Mishamigo was saying, it is a 4-color card. I mean, and it's 4 random colors that we haven't seen a lot of lately in general. I mean, it's green, white, blue, black. So like it's Esper with green, or
I guess that's the thing. Is it Bant? Is it Bant with black?
Bant with black? Bant with black? Or Esper with green? Either way.
You're seeing this in a lot of like Rakdos or Boros Reanimator decks. So you're throwing in red when Atraxa is not even red.
But Fable of the Mirror Breaker, those treasure tokens, they make any color. So every Fable of the Mirror Breaker deck just is a 5-color deck, no matter what you do.
Very true.
And with New Capenna still being live in Standard and the ability to make a bazillion treasure tokens beyond our imaginations, like it can easily just be thrown into less than 4-color decks, though less likely.
I think the overall thing that we're thinking right now is, Atraxa great for reanimation, also great for late game when you have these treasures. So late game castable, earlier game reanimatable.
Yes. Well, let's take a look at the metagame breakdown for this week, and we'll see what our players thought about, I guess, the playability of our Phyrexians. And we see right there at the top, mono white Midrange is dominating the field, followed by the very familiar Grixis Midrange. Now, these are 2 decks that we did see a good amount of in our last iteration of Standard. But there are new players in both of these decks. So do you think that the having one, are you surprised to not see more things like toxic decks? Selesnya Toxic was like a big thing on people's list. We saw cards like Venerated Rot Priest coming out and Bloated Contaminator, a 4/4 for 3 with upside and toxic and all these, but we're not seeing these new decks, these new abilities come to the top of the metagame yet. Do you think that's because players don't want to play not established decks yet? Or do you think Grixis and Mono White are just so good and only just got better with Phyrexia All Will Be One? What do you think, Zab?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think people right now are just trying to use the list that they had previously and upgrade them with the new stuff. But I think we'll start seeing some new brews come to light over the next week or so, as people are just like, I'm bored of all of this stuff I've been playing for the past several months. Let's shake this up, because there's a lot of new and crazy huge cards. And I really do think they're going to start seeing a lot more play, particularly Poison. But I mean, a lot of people in Commander despise Poison, so maybe people are just avoiding it.
One thing I'd like to add is, so we do have these top 5 decks, but if you count it up, that's what, 20, 40, 50, 60, that's only about 70 decks total, right? And our pool is what, about 180 people. So you're really only seeing a little over half of the decks submitted in these 5 different breakdowns. So we have all of these other, accumulation of decks that I think a lot of them have a lot of poison. It's just, they haven't quite found what lane they want to go or want to run with it. So I think we'll probably see some more poison stuff coming through. It's just, they're working it out still.
Yeah, so there's some kinks that need to be worked out. As we see, we go down further down the list. There's a good amount of Jund mid-range decks, some Azorius Soldiers, another big player from last standard, and Mono Blue Tempo, one of the decks where I feel like they didn't get anything. Mono Blue Tempo is like the same 75 as it was last standard, but it's such a powerful deck. Now, that which is old can be made new once again, so and we see a lot of this happening in standard before, where decks that are great, and then people figure out how to beat them, and then the deck's not good anymore, and then it comes back and it's great again. So do you think we'll be seeing that with a deck like Mono Blue Tempo, or do you think that again it's just kind of people shying away from trying something new, saying, hey, you know what, I've had luck with this Mono Blue Tempo deck in the past, what do I need new cards for? It's actually really good against these new toxic decks, or these new Atraxa Reanimator decks that are trying to go big because I'm running a bunch of counter spells. Do you think that that these Mono Blue Tempo decks are actually a big player in new standards? What do you think, Zabracus?
Ooh, I mean, I am the kind of person who is just forever anti-mono blue. So in my opinion, I'm just hoping that these people are just like holding out for the last stand and they will just disappear forever. But knowing that that's not a thing that will ever happen, I mean, honestly, they're probably going to find all the great blue cards that came out of Phyrexia 1 and throw them into the deck and just make it this overpowerful, ridiculous, awful mono blue tempo deck that I'm going to despise playing against, but will begrudgingly accept.
Yes. And now, so I don't know if you're as anti-blue, Mishamigo. What's your thoughts on this? I'm just curious. I feel like I asked the right person the right question.
No, I think you absolutely did. So I think my opinion on this is that, obviously last season, before we had one introduced, Grixis just kind of took over. There was, we had Mono White trying to combat Grixis, but for the most part, Grixis kind of just ran the gamut and just was the strongest deck. But now that we've had some new cards introduced into Mono White that combat Grixis a little bit better, make it a little bit more competitive, you have more of a trifecta now. So you have two really powerful decks, and you start hedging in these other decks that, combat Mono White a little bit better. So you're just trying to introduce a little bit more. And I think the Mono Blue, especially with some of those new cards like the Atraxa, say you reanimate it, but the deck isn't actually running, it's only running 2 colors, not 5. They might get the Atraxa off the graveyard recursion, but who's to say, if you bounce it back to their hand, are they going to be able to put it back in their graveyard? Are they going to be able to play it again? So I feel like the mono blue it's found its place, but well, I guess we'll see how it actually plays out.
Yes, and we are going to do that right now as we head into our first match of the evening from Division 10. Now, this is going to be live. We have both players ready on Magic Arena, direct challenging each other, getting ready to, I guess, surprise us. So we've got Mythic Mikaela first on that mono blue tempo deck. Now, the matchup is mono blue versus mono red, which I feel like is like tale as old as time. Mono red, if they get off to a good start, there's no stopping them. But if mono blue can gum up the battlefield and slow them down enough, mono blue can take over any game. And that's what we see here in this mono blue tempo deck with cards like Tolarian Terror, Haughty Djinn, and Surge Engine in the sideboard. Really good ways to gum up the battlefield. But what do you think some of the key cards are outside of the creatures? Mishamigo, do you have any other like input? Maybe some bounce spells? I see some Fading Hopes in here.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Fading Hope is definitely the one for me. Like, if you can get those, mono red creatures off the board so that you can stay alive in the beginning to be able to get that Haughty Djinn or that Tolarian Terror out onto the battlefield, once you have those big boys out there, mono red's gonna have a hard time punching through, especially if you have a big flyer. Like, so if you can just, kind of, obviously keep that tempo and keep mono red from killing you right away, I think Mikaela might be in a good spot. But on the flip
I
side, if mono red starts curving out, she might be in some trouble.
Yeah, let's take a look at the mono red deck. Now this will be from April Norris. Oh, we've got
Oh,
a different. Oh, we got a little Felipa bonus. Hi, Felipa. But so until we see that now, one of the things like you had said, Mishamigo, actually, when we asked Myth Mikaela, the card she's hoping to avoid in this matchup is a very early Swift Spear. She wants to be able to buy that time to maybe cast that early Tolarian Terror off. Not the 6 mana for sorry, 7 mana for the 5/5. She wants to pay 1 mana for that 5/5, get it going, block up the battlefield, and just hope to not die to that early action. It's from April Norris, our mono red player here, who cards to watch: Monastery Swiftspear right there at the top, Squeedoobie's Monarch, and Rebel Salvo. No, a Rebel Salvo, one of the new cards here, dealing 5, a good way to deal with cards like Sheoldred the Apocalypse. And we see, though, in April's deck, a much lower curve than some other mono red decks that have been floating around. No copies of Jaya. We see just 1 copy of Shivan Devastator in the main. So no real big red plan here. It looks like a very low curve, 4 Swift Spear, 4 Phoenix Chick, Bloodthirsty Adversary as a mana sink perhaps later in the game. Same thing with Squee coming back. What are your thoughts on this list, Zabracus?
First of all, I think it's fabulous because I'm a fan of just aggro smash face as quickly as you can.
Rakdos player or what?
I mean, it's half of Rakdos, right? It's fine. But I mean, there's a lot of cards that she can get out very quickly to do a lot of damage if Mikaela can't get rid of them very quickly. The thing that I do worry about is once April curves out, she doesn't really have a whole lot of draw cards. And so if she's running along on cards, there's not a great way to replenish those outside of Felden. And that's just hoping that you can get damage in and exile cards and stuff like that. And so that's the main thing I worry about with this deck is the lack of draw into the long game.
Yeah, I do agree with that. This deck doesn't have a lot of draw, but on the flip side, this deck is almost as much of a burn deck as it is a mono red deck. If you look down at like Kumano faces Kakazan, that's only 1 damage, but then you have the play with fire that there's a 4 of, and there's a 4 of lightning strike, and those can both go face. So if you can't like slam your creatures through anymore, there is still a chance that you could just hit face and win. So this deck, there's a burn aspect to it as well.
There
absolutely
certainly is. Yes. And now we get to watch these 2 decks do battle live here on VML Week 3. Mono Blue from Mythic Mikaela and Mono Red from April Norris. Good luck to both of our players. I'm very excited. This is my first live match. I'm so excited.
I love that we're watching it live.
Same though.
That's exciting.
Doesn't it give it a little extra spice? I like this a lot. I'm super stoked. I cannot wait to see this happen. Now we will be watching from April Norris's point of view. Mythic Mikaela's point of view. That's our mono blue player. And at the top, you will see we have April Norris. That's our mono red player. Now, Mikaela kept the 7 pretty quick, looking good. A 1, 2, 3 curve here. And on the top, we see 2 lands and a bunch of low-cost spells from April Norris. Probably exactly what she wants to see here. What do you think of these starters, Mishamigo?
Ooh, well, Myth Mikaela didn't want to see it, but there's that turn 1 Monastery Swift Sphere coming out, punching in for 1. Mikaela does have that Consider in hand that she will go ahead and cast right now. And there is a negate for turn 2. Negates just don't always feel very good when you're playing against mono red and it's not something big to negate, right?
Right.
Exactly.
But it might be good here, but unfortunately it won't stop the prowess trigger from Monastery Swift Spear, but it will help prevent damage later on down the road.
Mhm.
Maybe keep Mythic Mikaela alive just a smidgen longer.
Yeah, because what is it?
Absolutely.
Kamano's second phase also lets your creature come in with I think it's a 1/1 counter. So that's 1 damage could be the make or break in this. So might get a Swift Seer pump, but at least we're not taking more off of pumped creatures.
Right. And now I see Mythic Mikaela making the choice here not to play the Haughty Jin on turn 3, perhaps holding up Thirst for Discovery, having only three other cards in hand. What are your thoughts on that play instead of playing the X4 Zabracus? What do you think?
I think for a mono blue temple deck, it's actually very smart because you do want to try to have the card advantage in your hand rather than draw into it after it's already too late. And so, I mean, she's got plenty of land in hand to play whatever she needs to, and she can afford to take a little bit of damage and ensure that she gets the spells that she needs to take control of this match.
Yes, because Mythic Mikaela already dropped to 12 life. Now, April's still at a perfect 20, but like you said, Mythic Mikaela does have the lands, the means to cast all of the spells in her hand, unlike April, who is still stuck on 2 lands with a 3-drop and a 4-drop in hand.
Yeah, I was also going to say that Mythic Michaela's got a ton of lands. She has the ability to trash one of those and try to draw into something better. Because with that many lands in hand, if you're not seeing any action, this mono red can really run you over fast, as we can see since she's at 12 life already. So I think it was the right choice to try to dig for something.
And we'll see an attack here. Phoenix Chick thinking about getting in, not going to. So it's just Monastery Swift Spear and Felden getting in, keeping the play with fire up. And I think Mythic Mikaela could smell that a mile away. So it looks like no blocks from her side. We'll see what April chooses to do. Still going to go face with play with fire. So is going to be able to scry Mythic Mikaela down to 10 and then down to 6 on the attacks. A scary place to be. And land is the draw for turn. So we'll see a Thirst for Discovery, hoping to find a little something else. Spell Pierce and an Impulse. Ooh. What is going to get Mythic Mikaela back into this game, Nisha?
So as we were talking about earlier, that fading hope to just try to bounce something. Obviously April is not drawing lands, so that Thundering Raiju is not going to be coming out, at least not for another turn or two. But we do possibly have that Squee, so I'm not sure if bouncing the Squee would be the right choice, or maybe the Swift Sphere. It kind of depends what April does, but having something to bounce so that we're not going to be taking a ton of damage, that could be really important because we do need to keep this Haughty Jin on board. Although Mikaela, it's going to be scary because you don't want to lose your creature, and we don't know what April's going to draw.
Right. It's a hard balance between not wanting to lose my creature and not wanting to die. So
it's always so hard when that's your option.
As we see, unfortunately, it's about to get a little bit harder for Mikaela here as we see Squee come down. That Fading Hope, though, going to take care of it before attack. So no little goblin token for April this time. Happy to scry that island to the bottom. And now April is tapped out. So if she chooses to attack here, she'd be losing a creature, getting some damage across, but is deciding whether or not that is worth it.
Ooh, at this point, I think that terror. I think you put that in hand, and it's a
Absolutely,
1-mana Talarian terror. That's how you want them. Oh, April went for the attack, knowing that she's tapped out and is going to lose something.
Felden's going to get a good look at some cards here. that Haughty Jin is a 7/4. So April is going to get to look at the top 7 cards, exiles 7, and we'll be able to choose one and then play it. And with Mythic Mikaela at 4, that's scary. Had to stop the biggest damage, I imagine, and stay at 4 rather than 3 and be dead to a lightning strike itself.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, there's a lot of options for April because if you grab a mana and play it, you can have Thundering Raiju next turn. If you grab a spell that hits face and you do 3 damage, you have 2 creatures out there. Or if Mikaela doesn't play another creature, that's lethal. And that looks like the way April's going to go.
There's the lightning strike.
Oh boy. All right. Well, Mythic Mikaela knows at least, 2/3 of what she is up against. Doesn't know about the Thundering Raiju, but knows about the Squee and the Lightning Strike. And we see with this impulse, looking at 2 islands, another terror that will be 1 mana and an Essence Scatter.
Yeah, I think at this point you just need 2 1-mana terrors.
Now, is Mythic Mikaela is looking to survive long enough to make a one-turn kill you attack with like a huge Haughty Jin and a couple of Tolarian terrors? Is that the game plan here?
I think that's what she has to
I
rely on because
think so.
yeah, there's a good chance that April could end up drawing into a couple of spells that can go face. So Mikaela needs to have something, but
Well,
oh
and that was an
Oof.
aggressive attack, that Haughty Jin getting in
yeah,
there, bringing April down to 11. So just the Phoenix chick is going to attack. And with 4 mana up, going to Lightning Strike. So playing
hmm
around a card like Spell Pierce, but Mikaela has the negate. So that will
That
take
negate
care of
felt
that.
so good.
yeah. And then here we go. We have Mikaela managed to hold on at
Wow.
3 life for game one.
And just like that, like she was behind by a lot, and then instantly like, hey, I have these 2 giant creatures. Boom, boom. Like that's
Yeah,
what's
that
crazy about Mono Blue tempo. Is it like you could be down to 1 life and it doesn't matter. Like if you have what it takes on board, it's your game.
yeah,
Oh
that
my.
was a very aggressive attack with that Haughty Jin, and I would have been a little nervous in Michaela's shoes, but, that's what she needed to do, and, it got her there. That's what did it for her. So, getting that
The
attack
answer.
in won her
That
that
was
first
And I
game.
feel for April with the mono red and like having the last 3 damage in hand, that lightning strike, thinking like, I got this. And then of course the mono blue player has a counter spell.
That's why you love blue, right, Zabs?
they always have it.
Absolutely. They all
They
literally always.
always,
They have 50 of
literally
them
always have it.
every single time.
And
And
then, of
speaking
course,
of,
April doesn't know this, but, Michaela not only had the one counter spell, but the spell pierce as well.
Exactly.
we see Mikaela bringing in those surge engines for this game, as well as witness protection to take care of any of those pesky prowess things, and Squee making tokens and silly things like that. They can all become, you know, business people.
This is a very familiar opening hand for Michaela. The Haughty
Yes.
Jin, no turn one, but a counter spell. So yeah, it looks very familiar. She's gonna keep it.
I feel like the difference is here is being on the play rather than being on the draw. Play for game one, and being able to cast a negate, and then being on the draw here feels pretty
Oh,
scary.
also, I want to say I
Absolutely.
think April mulliganed, if I'm counting correctly. I think
Right?
she went down a card.
Yes. But still able to put out a good amount of power here on turn number 2, getting across for 3 more damage. So that makes 4. Then Michaela's already down to 16 and is just casting the first spell of the game. Fading Hope, top card. That'll buy some time and make that Haughty Jin a little bit bigger. And just a pass of the turn back. Now,
Ooh.
a card like Unlicensed Hearse, is that worth a counter spell? Mikaela says yes. What are your thoughts, Zabracus?
I think it absolutely is, especially considering Haughty Jin relies upon things being in the graveyard. That is a card that can absolutely shut down Haughty Jin and make it so that it has no power. And so if you want to be able to not only block these creatures that mono red is having, but to kill them, you need to have things in your graveyard.
That is
Yes,
very
exactly.
yes, and we'll see an essence scatter on the Phoenix chick. Thinking about it, Phoenix chick does have the ability to come back from the graveyard, but you have to attack with 3 creatures and be able to pay red for it. So we'll see Mikaela just buying time here. Bounce this, counter this, and is still at 7 life, so still a scary place to be, but now has a Haughty Jin with Fading Hope or Essence Scatter up. What do you think about Michaela's position now, Misha?
I think Michaela's in a better position. Honestly, I know she won last game, but I think she's in a better position a little bit earlier in this game, just because I would feel a little bit more comfortable blocking with my Jin, knowing that I have the Essence Scatter. Or the last case scenario, you could even bounce it if you're thinking that maybe my Jin might die and I need to keep it on board. So I think she can be a little bit more comfortable blocking and trying to take out some of April's creatures. I just don't think April's gonna be able to punch through as easily as she was. prior.
Yeah, and we'll see that Monastery Swift Spear coming down here. Phoenix Chick trigger. We'll see if April decides to pay, and it looks like she will. So that Phoenix Chick's coming back as a 2/2. Haughty Jin going to jump in front of the bigger Monastery Swift Spear, but this is still 4 damage coming through. That's a lot.
Yeah, if I was in Mikaela's shoes, I'm not sure. I think I would hope the second one that got a 1/1 counter on it. Yep. And I think I want that thirst for discovery on top because you have an extra land, might as well get rid of it.
And we'll see that Thirst for Discovery be ascribed to the top, drawing land, and another Thirst for Discovery.
Right.
So,
yeah, you don't want that many lands.
yes.
No.
And looks like at 5 life, definitely a scary place to be, knowing that Kamano is going to be flipping into a creature next turn, a 2/2 with haste. Phoenix Chick also in the hand, also with haste. And Squee, that Mikaela does not know about, also with haste. So it's a scary, hasty hand from April here.
Yeah, agreed. The one nice thing Mikaela has going right now is that with that Haughty Jin discount, you can get the Thirst for Discovery and Essence Scatter.
Yeah, it looks like, thinking about it, not going to scatter the Phoenix Chick. Gonna let that resolve. So April testing the waters, I guess, and going to follow up that Phoenix Chick with a Monastery Swift Spear. That will draw out the Essence Scatter from Mikaela, growing that Haughty Jin to a 7/4. But at 5 life, what a scary place to be. Deciding what to block here, jumping in front of the 2/2. So 3 more damage getting across. Mikaela probably very thankful there was no play with fire in hand from the side of April.
Absolutely.
But also smart to get rid of the Kakazan because it will exile anything that dies. And so if her Haughty Jin died, then it would be exiled versus going into her graveyard, which I guess wouldn't count for the other Haughties. But either way,
we see
getting rid of exile cards is always good.
Ooh, this is a really scary position for Mikaela because if she doesn't have, these blockers, anything with haste coming through will most likely kill her. Because if she attacks with that Jin, she only has 1 flying blocker, and those chicks fly.
Yes, and we see just a mountain from the side of April. So Squee can come down. Squee in itself will be 2 bodies if it gets 2 attacks, which we know Mythic Mikaela can do nothing to stop that. So everybody into the red zone, and blocks will be made. But unfortunately, the 5 attackers, 3 blockers, it maths, and that will be exactly lethal for our mono red player, April Norris, taking down game number 2. So we are tied 1 game apiece heading into game number 3 between our mono blue and mono red player. Mythic Mikaela probably going, where were my surge engines? Where are my witness protections?
A few more fading hopes would have been great. Like,
right?
There were things that could have come up that would have helped a lot right there, but unfortunately just wasn't in the cards.
The shuffler hates us all equally.
But all right, game 3.
Ooh, those are the cards that she needed last game.
Yeah, I do like that Mikaela has had a Haughty Jin for 3 mana both times.
We see April double mulliganing down to 5 cards, keeping land, 3 1-drops, and Bloodthirsty Adversary, drawing a Feldon on the first turn. Now, this has got to be a little bit of relief, followed by a little bit of fear from Mikaela, because April went turn 1 mountain, Monastery Swift Spear attack you. Now is following it up with a Kamano versus Kakazan. But now is going to see that April doesn't have a second land. So a really powerful start from April. But if she can't keep that train rolling, Mikaela's got to feel pretty good right now, I would think. What do you think, Zabracus?
She doesn't know that April doesn't have a second land, but she probably kind of guesses it since a second land hasn't been played, and now she definitely knows. But yeah, the fact that April had a Monastery Swift Spear on every single one of her games this match, and she was able to bounce it, and then it wasn't able to be played again, definitely a good feeling.
Oof, and April's still missing that second land drop. I can't help but feel for her. That never feels good. But she's still having a strong, you know, having all those one drops is nice, but can't help but feel.
Yeah, it's a tough place to be in. We see Anawara being played as a land from the side of Mythic Mikaela, who has hit every one of her land drops so far this game, but that Hori Jin, just a 1/4 at the moment. So we'll see.
Well,
Phoenix Chick cannot
Phoenix can't
block.
block, so
Might as well get in for one. No. Is saying, you know what? I'm not the beatdown quite yet. We saw what this mono blue deck looks like when it turns the corner, and it can kill you real quick. So Mikaela is going to be patient and wait it out and make sure that she doesn't just die out of nowhere to the mono red deck, which is possible, as we saw April did mulligan last game as well and won that game pretty handily.
and there comes that essence scatter, and this is where you want to play it. You don't want Felden on board to be able to get an attack in and die and get a bunch of card advantage off of Felden. So I think that was the right choice, is to counter that one, and then just wait and see what else comes.
Yes,
absolutely.
Mikaela still being patient here, holding Essence Scatter and Spell Pierce in hand rather than casting a 5-mana Tolarian Terror, because nobody likes to cast one for more than a single blue. So we see April still doing her best to unload her hand, playing Phoenix Chick and Monastery Spear here, but there's no real good attacks into the 2/4 that is sitting on Mythic Mikaela's side. What does April need to do here to get into this game to be able to start attacking and chipping away at Mythic Mikaela?
She definitely needs more lands.
Yes, that is a good start. I would probably say that we're going to want to see it. Yeah. I would say a lightning strike, but that won't even take out the Hori Jin. This is going to be difficult. You'd almost think 2 counter spells, or not counter spells, 2 kill spells from April to be able to just take the Hori Jin off as a blocker.
Yeah, we're unsure.
I think what cards she has that could take it out. Did she sideboard in the Rebel Salvo?
We have not seen one yet. It is possible, but we haven't seen one if she has. So,
to be fair, a hearse to start, exiling some stuff out of Mikaela's graveyard would not hurt, and then you can build your board up and just keep, building. But that's going to take, April into a long game type thing, which is not what you want in against mono blue.
Especially as mono red, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You want to just quickly destroy your opponent before they even realize what happens.
Yes. So we see Mythic Mikaela
Surge Engine
starting to sink some mana into the Surge Engine. Cannot be blocked. This is a really big attack. This is 9, almost half of April's life total. And with a Spell Pierce and a Fading Hope in hand, that would pump up the Hori Jin just about enough to be able to kill April on the next turn. It's a lot.
Because right now we could we could do both and get that Jin big and strong.
All right. It looks like April going to go all in with this attack. So Mythic Mikaela is saying, you know what? I'm going to bounce that Monastery Swift Spirit back to hand. I'm going to save myself 2 life here. She's still at a pretty healthy 18 with this attack coming across, but that Play with Fire going upstairs and considering spell piercing it. She's thinking about it.
I mean,
we know April can't pay the 2, so
yeah.
Yep. And then we have GG's.
We'll see a good game.
Brutal.
April knew she was dead on the swing back there with that Spell Pierce pumping up that Hori Jin. So 11 damage would have come across in the next turn, and she's just going to scoop them up. So Mythic Mikaela on mono blue tempo with a very impressive showing against the mono red aggro deck, taking that down against April Norris. So Mythic Mikaela will move up to 2-1 in division number 10, but it is only week 3. There are plenty of weeks left. Good games to both of our players, and good luck to both of them in the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll be seeing them again on coverage. But what a match to start with. How exciting was that?
Yeah, that we went to game 3. You don't always get to game 3s, but it's always exciting when you do. And there was Mikaela saying she was worried about being the blue player against mono red. So, congrats to her. And great job to both players. They played very well.
Oh,
Mikaela,
absolutely.
we'll stress you out. We're gonna we'll throw you back on the camera again. All right, that's what we're here to do. We're your friends. No, but really good games to both of our players. That was very, very enjoyable. It was quite a match to watch. A very impressive play on both sides. And I'm ready to get into some more action now. And now I feel like that's like, I don't even want to call it the warm up because I'm like pumped. Like I'm in, I am locked in. I am so ready for some more standard action. I am ready to watch some more of these VMLers do battle. So I'm excited to move on to our second feature match of the night. We're going to be watching from division number 9. We have Jamie Topples on what she liked to call Simic Bogles.
I won't lie, I'm most excited about this deck. When I saw Simic Bogles as a deck list, I was like, that one needs to be on coverage.
Right? You just see the name Bogles and you're like, all right, I'm in. And we certainly are in here. Now, this is one of the decks I was talking about earlier that we haven't seen a lot of this archetype to the top. Like people have experimented with some toxic. We've seen a lot of green white, but this is green blue with the centerpiece of Venerated Rot Priest and Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief. So if you want regular damage, you're gonna go with Ivy. If not, you go with Venerated Rot Priest. So it's a quite an interesting deck. A lot of protection, taking care of those 11 creatures in the deck with cards like Shore Up, Tamiyo's Safekeeping, and Tyvar's Stand. So definitely an interesting build here.
Well, the fun thing
love
about
it.
Venerated Rock Priest is that it says whenever a creature you control becomes, so you can still target Ivy with a Venerated Rock Priest out there and still get the same effect. So like double the
Poison
effect,
cat.
double the fun.
Yes, it is double. It's definitely I hope this deck is double the fun because I cannot wait to watch this one in action. And according to Jamie, we asked who is your favorite Phyrexian to our players this week. She said her favorite Phyrexian is Tamiyo. So I'm guessing that means that they are Phyrexian, Planeswalker, Tamiyo, whatever. So I guess we're on the same page as Shieldred, Tamiyo. That counts.
Phyrexians for now.
Phyrexians for now. I don't know if things are gonna change again. They probably will, but I like
permitted to interject.
Always.
We had said earlier we weren't aware of the scale on which we were rating Phyrexians, such as Vraska. Vraska already has scales, so
I love that to me.
You are not wrong. So and let's take a look at Jamie's opponent for tonight. So Simic Bogles will be taking on Jun Midrange, one of the I want to say newer archetypes. We see a few new players in this deck in cards like Glissa Sunslayer, Tyvar, Jubilant Brawler, Shieldred's Edict, and one of the more interesting ones, I think, the Luca that is here in the main. That's something else. Haven't seen Luca Bouncer Ruin in action quite yet myself in a constructed setting. So I'm super excited to see this one going. What are your thoughts on this list, Zabracus? Is there anything that stands out to you?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I just want to point out that Jamie Topples, when we asked her what card she was hoping to avoid in this matchup, was Invoke Despair, because that's exactly what it does. And that's exactly what Kansaki's deck has, 4 Invoke Despairs. So, I mean, if those are played, I'm very curious to see how that works. But again, just the fact that there's a Luca in here, like the card, I feel like this is the meme card of the set that everyone's just like, oh, Luca. I'm very curious to see how it turns out,
Yeah, it's like everybody, Luca got completed. See, nobody cares. So
Poor Luca.
Poor Luca. Oh, I think Luca just got a bad rap from that Transmogrify deck that nobody liked to play against, the Agent of Treachery. Poor Luca. Luca deserved better. All right. But it definitely is an interesting build. As we see, a lot of the Rakdos staples in Shieldred, Blood Tithe Harvester, Fable and Mirror Breaker, Invoke Despair, Go for the Throat, Reckoner, Bankbuster. So the green is really just new cards like Luca, Glissa Sunslayer, and Armored Scrap Gorger. So we see a lot of kind of new blood in this, new oil, I guess, in these decks. And I'm excited to see these two do battle as we see some awesome new cards here from Phyrexia All is One. So we've got Jund Midrange versus Simic Bogles. Now, as we head into this match, Mishamigo, who do you think has the advantage here? Do you think it's Bogles? Do you think Jund Midrange is running enough kill spells? Do you think Simic Bogles has enough protection? How do you think this is gonna go?
Oh, okay, that's hard. I think the Bogles are gonna be slippery. They're gonna have a hard time. Kansaki's gonna have a hard time, outrunning these Bogles because Ivy flies. You got some shore ups. You got some safekeepings for protection. So I think I'm in favor of the Bogles taking this because there's also just a lot of options for quick poison. So you don't even need to make contact for some of these wins. But that's where I would place my faith, but we'll see.
Yeah, and we see Jamie right off the bat playing out the Venerated Rot Priest with protection. But we see Kansaki with a very familiar start, I think, in Standard over the past few months, which was turn 2 Blood Tithe Harvester into turn 3 Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Is this start going to be enough to run over the Simic Boggles deck? What do you think, Zabracus?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely possible. Jamie definitely has a few things to keep herself safe for the next little while, but I mean, Kansaki does have the Glissa Sunslayer, which can remove counters. So even if she ends up with some poison counters, she can I would assume that can. Is the face counted as a permanent? Can you remove poison counters from yourself?
I don't think you can. I think it is just it is just
well. Okay, never mind. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult for Kansaki, but I mean, she also has the Invoke Despair in hand. She has the Shieldred in hand, and in general, she's going to be able to take care of a lot of the stuff that Jamie tries to throw at her, and get rid of things despite the counter things that Jamie has.
Okay, now, and earlier, before we started, we actually talked about how we were seeing what happens when a lot of new sets are released and new formats, are getting going. So we see here, our new standard, Phyrexia All Will Be One standard, breathes new life into old cards. And one of the cards that we're seeing here from the side of Jamie is the Green March, the March of Burgeoning Life, that allows you to choose a target creature, mana value less than the X, so it's X in green. And you can search your library for a creature card with the same name as that creature, put it on the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle. So a card that I feel like we haven't seen played before, but having 2 Venerated Rot Priests in play is so much better than having 1. So what do you think about having a new home for an old card here, Misha? What do you think about like playing cards like Croaking Counterpart or the Green March?
Honestly, I love that. I love that, we're starting to see some cards that didn't get much love when they were, fresh out of their set. Like Croaking Counterpart, when you said that, I thought you were talking about the frog card. And I was like, oh yeah, the frogs. We don't see that too often. But yeah, the March of Burgeoning Life, the blue one got a lot of love, but and sometimes in the white one, but the green one, not so much. But when you have these, 1 mana Venerated Rot Priest, this is a great tutor for those.
It truly is. It definitely is.
And it gives a poison while you're tutoring, so it just furthers the cause.
Not only that, but would that trigger Ivy, considering that it's you're targeting a creature? If Ivy was on the board,
I believe it would. Well, you'd have to. I believe so because you could target Ivy if Ivy was on the board, and then you would get, I think, a double of the effect.
Yeah, whenever like a player.
That's evil. I love it.
Yes. Let's see. We see now speaking of, well, there's old cards that found new homes, but we see on the side of Kansaki, he's playing a Sheoldred, the Apocalypse. The steadfast, tried and true cornerstone of this standard. Now, Jamie is still at a pretty high life total at 14 life, but there's going to be an active reflection next turn, as well as a Blood Tithe Harvester. And Blood Tithe Harvester, when it minuses, it doesn't care if the creature has indestructible. It's given -X, -X, can kill anything. Do you think that even though Kansaki is at 7 poison counters,
8 because the frog is a copy.
Sorry. 8, you are correct.
Oof.
Oh,
Honestly, nope. This is game. This is game.
Yeah, because that would be 10 counters. Oh my goodness.
Well, ribbit.
I'm telling you, those Bogles are they're slippery.
wild.
They're hard
Now,
to get past.
Are you all believers now? Because I see this Simic deck and I'm wow, that's impressive.
I mean, as soon as I saw JB's deck and the fact that it had both Ivy and venerated what's it called? The Rot Priest, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be evil. And then just everything else on top of it, like that was amazing. I love it when decks can do these crazy things. They don't even have to deal combat damage. They just pop off in their own way and boom, your opponent's dead. I love it.
Yeah, with
We don't
Jamie's
see that
deck
very often.
Yeah, with Jamie's deck being, mostly 1 and 2 drops, like I had a feeling they were gonna get out of hand real fast.
Yes, and now we are heading into game number 2. We'll take a look at opening hands from both of our players.
Yeah.
Now, Kansaki kept their 7 card hand, and Jamie is thinking about this. There's no green. What are your thoughts on this opener, Misha?
I don't think Jamie can keep that. You love the Tamios, you love the venerated Rot Priest, but you don't have the green to play them, and you need to go get those out like turn 1, turn 2, and that's just a big, gamble. So I think mulling that was the right choice on her part. So now it looks like we're putting that aspirants back in, and we still might have a slow start because we have a tap land, but at least we have green.
Yes, it is. Definitely looks a little bit better than that starting 7. So we're going to get going. Kansaki playing 2 lands, doesn't have a third land in hand, and doesn't have a turn to, now has a turn to play as Jamie played out that Storm Chaser Jake. So able to abrade that. So Kansaki, he can take care of that. We see a third land on his side as well. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, one of the most powerful cards in Standard, coming down, making that Goblin token. And we'll see Venerated Rot Priest from Jamie. Now, do you think this is too slow of a start from Jamie? Do you think Kansaki will overwhelm the board? What are your thoughts, Zabracus?
I think the fact that Jamie didn't draw her third land definitely makes this a bit difficult for her. Because Kansaki, even though they only have 3 lands, they do have a lot of things in hand that they can do with that. And Jamie doesn't necessarily have a lot that she can do in response. Yeah, she can do the Tamio safekeeping once. She could maybe do the March depending on what it was, but she can really, I guess she could get rid of like 4 cards out of her hand now. But it's definitely looking more like Kansaki, but then Kansaki missed. They're both just missing land drops. Oh my gosh, this is just wild.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Kansaki's advantage here, I would believe, will come from cards like the Goblin, that Shaman that is making treasure tokens, and the Armored Scrap Gorger that can tap for any color. So it's definitely.
If I were Jamie, I think I'd be swirling that token just because it's giving Kansaki so much advantage right now.
Ooh, and we see Sheoldred's Edict on the side of Kansaki. Now that will take care of a venerated Rot Priest around cards like Tamio's safekeeping. However, we see the March of Swirling Mist can take care of that. Save the Rot Priest at least for a turn.
There is a land.
Yes.
3v3.
Yeah, this is like 3v3. Is this turn 3? What? No? Oh, wait.
Now we see Armored Scrap Gorger.
That Scrap Gorger is going to be really good for Kansaki because that helps with your mana. And, Jamie does have those croaking counterparts that flash back. So getting those out of Jamie's yard will also be a good advantage for Kansaki.
Yes, it will. As we see another non-land drawn on the side of Kansaki, so we're going to stay at 3v3, but there is an active reflection in play. Going to choose not to activate it here on attacks. Just going to get in with that Goblin Shaman for another 2. Now, Jamie is continuously taking damage. It's not just that the Shaman's making treasure tokens. It's also getting in for damage. Jamie's at 14. And with no real board to speak of quite yet, we'll see Fable of the Mirror Breaker countered by Bring the Ending, unless it pays 2, because, Kansaki, he doesn't have any posing counters right now.
No.
Yeah, so does Kansaki stack those treasures? Yeah.
We'll see.
Ooh, and he's gonna do it. Oh, and the edict. Ooh.
Oh.
Honestly,
Okay.
I think it's just so worth it to get that Fable out, because the Fable, as we've said, like it's one of the main components of all these top tier decks. So if you can keep it on board, it's worth sacking some treasures.
We'll see Jamie really wanting to save this Venerated Rot Priest. Going to cast March of Swirling Mist, targeting the Rot Priest, discarding another Bring the Ending. And Kansaki is going to see the window of opportunity and just kill the Rot Priest with a Go for the Throat in hand. And so that almost takes care of the threats in Jamie's hand, with the exception of the croaking counterparts.
Yeah. I think that also goes to show you just how powerful the Venerated Rot Priest is, right? Like, they both spent a lot of resources to preserve and destroy that. So.
Now, with these Go for the Throats in hand, and only 3 lands in play, is Jamie going to be able to get back into this game? What do you think, Zabracus?
Whew. If Jamie can somehow find more lands, maybe, but probably not. I mean, I don't think Jamie's deck has any mass removal. She's not going to be able to draw into enough spot removal to clear the board, and yeah, there we see it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Jamie is I think she's only running 11 creatures. So if she doesn't hit those 11 creatures, she's got a lot of spells, but nothing to work off of. So and that's kind of what we saw right there, is that she was drawing all of her spells, but they rely on having creatures on board. So her losing that one Venerated Rot Priest kind of, really slowed her down and was kind of her ultimate demise in that second game.
I feel like that is a common theme in our modern Bogles decks too, as well. Like, if you don't have the threat, so they play a limited amount of threats and then a lot of protection and, go big spells. And if you don't have a threat to put it on, you're in trouble.
So we're going to see another game 3 tonight. This is exciting.
Right?
Took out all of the Invoked Despairs. There were no Invoked Despairs. Jamie will not be despaired.
Well, I believe Kansaki ended up boarding out most of the Invoked Despairs because they're just too slow.
Yeah, they're all out. Right. Exactly.
They are slow. Now, Kansaki is taking a look at their hand right now. It's only 1 land. Doesn't feel great. Now, Jamie did keep her 7-card hand. It does have a Storm Chaser Drake in it. And it looks like Kansaki is going to keep, was already going down to 6. And draws the 2nd land. So that is probably quite a relief. And having the cut down and duress in hand to be able to kind of slow things down for Jamie. So Kansaki is probably very relieved about that.
Yeah, I don't think Kansaki's too relieved now, though, knowing that Jamie has a Drake and some protection for it.
Yes. We'll be able to take 1 of these protection spells here, but it's going to have to leave the other 3. So that's a lot. So the one good news is that Storm Chaser Drake is one of the creatures that would be looking to kill through regular damage, not through poison, but I shouldn't have spoken. I should have waited. Why did I say anything? As we see, a venerated rot priest has once again entered the scene. Let's go. So we'll see. Jamie, thinking about maybe playing the known quantity here too in Storm Tracer Jake, and that's what it looks like she's going to do. What do you think about that play, putting out the Storm Tracer Jake instead of the Rot Priest? What do you think, Misha?
I think that's good on Jamie because the Rot Priest is unknown knowledge to Kansaki right now. So if you put that Storm Chaser Drake, Kansaki might think that's the only threat you've got going on and try to use, the removal on that rather than the venerated Rot Priest. But now it doesn't matter. It's out there. It's known knowledge.
Yes.
Not only that, but it has flying, right? Which can fly over pretty much anything that Kansaki would have. And the fact that Kansaki has missed their land drops, Jamie probably feels pretty secure in knowing that she can attack with it too.
Yes.
Yeah. Kansaki still can't play. Actually, can Kansaki play that Brotherhood's End? I thought they only had one red mana. But
2. They need 2.
Yes, they have a.
Oh,
they have the Armored Scrap
Forger. The
Forger.
Scrap Forger.
They-
That's correct. I was like, it's lighting up as if they can play it. But, okay.
Yes. So Kanzaki would be able to double spell here if he chooses to. Has options like Abrade and Go for the Throat, cut down Brotherhood's End, but notice that there are 3 safe spell, I guess, protection spells in Jamie's hand. We have Safekeeping and Tyvar's Stand, but only 2 green available at the moment. We'll see Tyvar's Stand going to target the Storm Chaser Drake, excuse me. And
yeah, Jamie went in that card, which, I mean, we drew into that Ivy, which is great.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited to see what's about to happen.
I don't know if Kansaki feels the same way. They do have cut down at the ready, and knowing they have Brotherhood's End on the way back, but now that would kill both their Armored Scrap Gorger and their Glissa if they decide to cast that Brotherhood End next turn. We'll see Tamio's Safekeeping going to keep that Venerated Rot Priest, safe from cut down, and some poison counter is going to start adding up here as Kansaki takes 3 poison counters. So he's at 3 poison counters and 16 life as that Storm Chaser Jake comes across. And we'll see Kansaki drawing a land here. So
I think that was a good choice on Kansaki's side because with Ivy out there, if Jamie were to have cast that on the Ivy and then cast, the copy on the Rot Priest, that would have been extra poison. So even though, Kansaki knew that Jamie had protection, you're preventing at least 1 poison by doing it at that point.
yes, we know that. Okay, let's see what Glissa decides to do here. Can either draw 1 card, lose 1 life, destroy target enchantment, or remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. We see that Kansaki has decided to draw a card, lose a life, dropping down to 15, and draws another Zeator's Proving Ground, excuse me. And can double spell here, Abrade and Go for the Throat. So, and knowing that Jamie's hand is just a Tyvar's Stand, but it's going to decline to kill one of Jamie's creatures and allow Jamie to go to attacks here. What do you think about Kansaki holding these removal spells rather than deploying them on the creatures now, Zabracus?
I think it's smart. Kansaki is waiting for some targeting spells so that they can hopefully kill things before they get completely out of control and take more poison counters, I would think. And also, especially because Jamie held up 5 mana, right? Like, you just never know what's they're going to play, what they have in hand, what that 1 card they don't know what it is. And so I think just playing it safe is definitely a little bit smarter here.
No, and that's what it looks like is going to happen. And Abrade is going to try to target this Venerated Rot Priest. So Tyvar's Stand is going to come try to mess things up. But we know that there is a Go for the Throat in Kansaki's hand that still will trigger Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief, however.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Arena to do the math for me on how many poison counters this is.
Whew. That's a big
It's a
stack.
lot. It's going to be a lot of poison in one turn.
We'll see. And looks like going to copy the spell. Yes. So up to 6.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna ask, like, if they choose yes, even though Ivy's gone, would that still get the poison counter? And apparently so.
Yeah,
So on cast, on targeting.
And Glissa still feeling frisky, gonna get into the red zone. Jamie down to 15, going to trigger again, draw a card, lose a life. That card, Blood Tithe Harvester. So Armored Scrap Gorger going to come eat a little something from the graveyard, make some mana, and take care of the entire board. So that Brotherhood's End, having a backup Brotherhood's End, I guess, made Kansaki more comfortable in casting the first copy. So Jamie needs to just start cycling lands here to hope to hit another threat. And we see Jamie's hand just a forest and a March of Swirling Mist. Has Kansaki turned the corner?
I honestly, with that Fable in hand and another Brotherhood's in case, stuff gets crazy, I think they just might, because Jamie is at 12 already. But then again, if Jamie does draw another Venerated Rock Priest, who knows? It's just or an Ivy.
Yep, we see Ivy coming down here. No way to protect. Well, sorry. We have the March of Swirling Mist in Jamie's hand. So could protect it. But Kansaki's going to get a good look at a couple more cards here. And a Braid and Brotherhood's End. That's a lot to look at. As well as another Blood Tithe Harvester, which is best friends with the Kiki Jiki token on the flip side of Fable of the Mirror Breaker. As we see 5 damage coming across. Jamie down to 7. So a precarious place to be as Blood Tithe Harvester comes down. And Tyvar's stand.
That might buy us a little bit of time. Granted, we do have Fable about to flip, and those harvesters, even with, the Tyvar stand will give, hexproof, but with a Fable flipping and then having 2 harvesters, that's going to be hard for Jamie.
Ooh, so it looks like Jamie getting in, saying, you know what, Kansaki, he's at 10 life, so I'm going to get across. I'm going to attack for 2. Bring Kansaki down to 8. Because March of Swirling Mist does not have to be your own creatures.
And it can take out Kansaki's entire board for a turn.
Yes. So maybe trying to buy some time, hoping to be able to cast Tyvar's stand to pump up that Ivy enough. But this duress is going to muck things up for realsies.
Yeah, Jamie having to use that March now.
All right. Phasing out 5 creatures, leaving its shields down because Kansaki has that Abrade in hand, but is going to choose not to use it. That's it. An interesting choice. Going to play an Armored Scrap Gorger and just hold up the Abrade. No cards in hand on Jamie's side. Going to draw a Distorted Curiosity. It would be able to draw 2 cards, and it looks like in response, Kansaki is going to try to Abrade and will Abrade this Ivy. So Jamie going to be able to draw, but will not be enough. The Green March does nothing if you don't got nothing on the battlefield. So we will see our Jun mid-range player Kansaki take that match down 2-1 over Jamie Topples, our Simic Bogles player. And Division 9. So Kansaki moves on to 3-0. This is an impressive record here week 3 of the VML. And best of luck to both of our players for the rest of the weeks. Very well played on either side. It was super exciting to see both decks get to kind of do their thing. So that was great. Glissa was very impressive there. Did any cards stand out to you, Zabracus? Maybe some new cards, the Venerated Rat Priest? Or
definitely the Venerated Rat Priest. I mean, particularly in conjunction with Ivy, like just seeing how quickly those poison counters can rack up, that was absolutely wild to watch in game 1. I loved that.
And what about you, Misha? What did you pick up on? Was there anything that really stood out to you? Any of those old cards that were made new, like the Croaking Counterpart or
I was gonna say, I was actually pleasantly surprised by the Croaking Counterpart because, anytime you can copy a 1-drop in, it doesn't matter if it's a 1/1 when you're trying to count on poison and not actual damage. Like, sure, give it to me as a 1/1. I'll take it. If I can poison up, cool.
right? Just give me like 6 Venerated Rot Priests in play. That's what we're looking for.
If I can't have more than 4 in my deck, how can I get more than 4 in my deck?
Exactly. We'll figure this out, right?
Yes.
So I am ready to move on to our third match of the evening tonight. We are, let's keep this, right? Keep the train rolling. We are going to be popping on over to division number 11 and checking out Looter Scooter and her Boros Reanimator deck, a deck that we spoke of briefly earlier with Atraxa Grand Unifier. And we see Portal of Phyrexia and Invoke Justice here. So pretty straightforward. Now, you see Boros, and then it's Atraxa. Atraxa's not red, but as many other colors. But there are a lot of very creative ways to get Atraxa into the graveyard, like Big Score and Cathartic Pyre, and some great ways to bring it back, like Portal of Phyrexia and Invoke Justice. So it's a pretty straightforward game plan here. But there are some plan Bs. We see some the Wandering Emperor, Sanctuary Warden cards like that can just be cast. Because, you're not always going to draw Atraxa or a way to discard it or a way to bring it back. So sometimes it kind of just mucks up your hand because you can't cast it. So
yeah, your alternate win condition of damage.
Yes, the alternate win condition of damage is exactly what it is. So go figure. And the part I love about these decks is because it says Boros Reanimator. Because you have to look at it, because if you don't, it just has the 5 color symbols. It's just like, it looks like 5 color Reanimator, where I guess technically speaking it is, but it's not really. Zabracus, do you have any thoughts about these Invoke Justice lists? Do you think that, we've seen a lot of the Invoke Despairs cast, and like having the 4 black mana pips that Invoke Justice. Looking at a card and seeing 4 mana pips is a little bit intimidating when they're all the same color and you're going, wow, I need to play a second color in this deck. So
I am just so excited to see this deck pop off. Every time I play against Portal to Phyrexia as a card, each and every time I'm just like, that card is so broken. And so even though it costs 9 mana, it's not broken. But I'm just excited to see that bring Atraxa back, Sanctuary Ward, literally anything, as well as Invoke Justice, and they're just going to be giant, enormous things that are brought back. I'm just excited to see what happens.
I feel like this is
the big chaos.
The newest theme in like Standard is like people were playing all these mid-range decks for the longest time, like Grixis mid-range and Mono White mid-range. People are like, I want to start cheating stuff into play. I'm sick of doing this all the fair way, so that's why we see these toxic decks playing 6 Venerated Rot Priests, and we're going to see like these things playing 9 mana artifacts, Portal Phyrexia, and being like, how do I get this 9 mana thing into play on turn 5?
Yeah, why wait for 9 when I can do it for 5?
I don't have time for this. Who has time for this? So we'll see if Looter Scooter will get to do their thing tonight. We'll see if against Josh. And Josh on the thing we were just speaking about, the Celestia Toxic deck. And I have to say that there's a part of me that really appreciates this deck because it is 20 creatures, 20 spells, 20 lands. And it is very rare for us to get a nice screenshot where it's everything's 4 of in the first row, everything's a 4 of in the second row, and there's one row of like random lands because there's the Iganjo, and then like, so the Brushland, the Boseiju, the Mirix, and the Forest. So things kind of got a little shuffled down there, but it's just such a nice looking deck. And even the sideboard is 4-4-4-3. So like, I'm totally in on this deck. I don't care what it would have been. I don't even need to look at the cards, but I'm just like here for this. So
thank you, Josh. We appreciate you.
Right. So Josh, just so you know, from the I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. But this is one of the newest archetypes. Well, it is like the newest archetype here in Standard. We have Toxic. We have cards that people have talked about in like Bloated Contaminator, Slaughter Singer, and everybody their favorite toothy duelist, Jawbone duelist. So, as well as everyone's favorite Skrelv. We see a lot of Skrelv kind of floating around nowadays. And of course, venerated Rot Priest as well. Do you have any thoughts on this creature package, Misha?
I mean, I love Skrelv. When you think Selesnya, you're like, yeah, life gain. Well, how about toxic life gain with that Skrelv's Hive? So I think I'm really excited to see Skrelv. Obviously, the venerated Rot Priest is what's going to really enable a lot of, poison without direct combat. But I'm just really excited to see this list. The Gaia's Gifts for protection, the Infectious Bites for removal. I think this is going to be a fun one. So let's get to it.
I'm so excited. Let's dive right into match number 3 of the evening. We're watching from the side of Looter Scooter. Looter Scooter is our Boros Reanimator player. And on the top, we have Josh with Selesnya Toxic. So
I do want to provide a short program note. Josh failed to record the first few turns of their game, but they will be joining us very shortly. So
wonderful. That is great. So we'll have some alone time with Looter Scooter first. We'll get to take a look at her opening hand before Josh will jump in and they will join us in a little bit with their action. We'll see Josh on the play here. Looter Scooter keeping their 7. She's got 4 lands, an Abrade, and Double Fable and Mirror Breaker. Definitely one of the most powerful cards and really synergistic with this deck is allows to discard like the bigger threats to bring back. It gets to kind of dig for your combos and things like that. But there is no other real action in her starting hand. So what are your thoughts about that opening 7, Zabracus?
I mean, it's not bad because you have removal early on if you need it. And then, well, now you have 3 Kiki Jikis, basically.
I heard you like Fable and Mirror Breaker.
Well, 3 of them.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Which we all know that card does so much, and it just gets worse each and every turn that it gets a counter, and you can do it 3 times. Like Looter Scooter will at least be able to have blockers, card draw, and potentially make counters. In the meantime, while they're trying to draw other things.
I just want to have 2 notes. Looter's opening hand, she had enough mana for that Invoke Justice with her opening hand of, 4 white mana, which is great. And then on Josh's side, we got that Skrelv's Hive out. We already have Corrupted. So
wow.
There's a couple cool notes to think about in this game already.
Yeah, I see that Slaughter Singer coming in.
Looter Scooter already has 6 poison counters.
Looter
This
Scooter
is like
already...
turn 4.
Yes, that's terrifying. And even more terrifying, Looter Scooter just looted away the Portal Phyrexia and a land and drew 2 more lands. So Portal Phyrexia is in the graveyard, and that's step 1, but there's nothing to bring back the portal quite yet. So
yeah, and I also want to say that what's sad about that portal is that once you do bring it back, Josh has the Hive. So when you have to sacrifice creatures, what's a Might or 2?
It's nothing to Josh, I am sure. So we see a second Fable of the Mirror Breaker going to come down here. Most likely on the side of Looter Scooter. She is going to play that out, make another 2/2. And Goblin's going to stay back home and probably need to do some blocking as there are 2 Slaughter Singers in play. Both of those have Toxic too. It's a green-white for a 2/2. Whenever another creature you control with Toxic attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So those are going to trigger on each other and get pretty big. So instead of having 2 2/2s and a 1/1 coming in, we've got 3 3/3s getting into the red zone. So the question is Looter going to die from Toxic? Or is Looter going to die from damage? And it looks like
Toxic, because
the
that
answer is Toxic.
Yeah.
Like, is Britney Spears Toxic like playing in anyone else's brain right now? Because it's been playing in my brain like this entire match.
Has it ever left since like 2010?
Also no.
All right, so the sideboarding looks like that Portal to Phyrexia might be coming out. It's a little too slow. The Might's not really worth having Josh sacrifice Mights. You're not going to pull anything else out of Josh's deck probably. So
Right. It looks like definitely a shave of that strategy, because leaving in a couple of Atraxas and leaving in one portal and some number of the Invoke Justices, but saying I can't go all in on this plan. I need to kind of do a better job cleaning up the battlefields with cards like Brotherhood's End or Farewell.
Mm-hmm. And
let's see, Josh is taking out a couple of Homestead Courage for a couple of Crawling Choruses, wanting to get a little bit more aggressive, going to say, hey, I want to get Looter up to a point where I can sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Josh saw that Looter didn't really have any creatures till turn 3 when the Fables came out. So if you can get these 1-drops with Toxic coming straight onto the battlefield, that's going to put Josh at his big advantage. So I totally get, cutting out the instance and putting in just more creatures that you can Toxic on.
Yes, and yes, we'll see. Got to get up to that Corrupted, The important Toxic counters are 1, 3, and 10. So
yeah, those are the numbers we're looking for.
Those are the numbers that we are looking for. And Skrell's Hide wants to kind of get that going, get that Corrupted online. So we'll see Cathartic Pyre from the side of Looter Scooter going to loot away a couple things. We see Farewell, Brotherhood's End. Brotherhood's End, a nice way to clean up the battlefield. Feels kind of bad when you're killing your own goblin tokens, though.
Yeah. If you can get
I think I'd rather sacrifice my goblins than take poison damage, though.
Very true. And I think I'd rather, at least get in for maybe even attempt for a damage and then get some treasure. and then
Also, yes.
Now we'll see a Bloated Contaminator from the side of Josh. Now, that was a card that we did not see in the first game that does not die to Brotherhood's End. It is a 4/4 for 3 with Trample, has Toxic 1, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you proliferate. So
that card is nasty.
That is certainly a big problem for Looter Scooter here. Thinking about what to discard to this Fable of the Mirror Breaker, what would Looter Scooter be digging for here, Misha? What do you think?
Honestly, I think she just drew it. Daddy Ganjo will take out that Bloated Contaminator. So I think that was one of the answers that we would have hoped for. Otherwise, I think she really just needs to, get some more lands and hope that Farewell can get out there fast enough.
Yeah, let me see. Thinking about playing.
Wait, well, 1 attack and 1 land away.
Mm-hmm.
Close. And looking like not going to get in with the Goblin Shaman for now. Thinking about playing that second Fable, and that's what Looter's going to do here. She's going to play out that second Fable, make another Goblin Shaman token. So we've got 2 blockers back on duty. And Josh, they just played Iganjo as a land. Any thoughts on that, not wanting to maybe hold that up for some shenanigans later?
That's a pretty confident move to throw that out there when it's like, okay, I don't need this for damage. I can just use it as a land. I've got other things, and I'll tack my 4/4 into your 2/2/2s. No worries. If Josh didn't have anything and was bluffing, I don't think I would have called their bluff anyways. That's pretty confident.
Now we see Traxa, the draw on Looter Scooters, and we know that Looter Scooter has the Invoke Justice in hand, so we'll be looking for that 5th mana source. So most likely see at least one of these Goblin Shamans get into the red zone here, unless Looter decides to play this Iganjo as a land, which she will not. So, no, it looks like both Goblin Shamans feeling a little frisky.
Well, the Mites can't block, so Josh only has a 1/1 that you can effectively see on their side. So if Looter gets in with these 2/2/2s, gets 2 treasures, you can still invoke Justice and keep that Aganjo back in case you need it later.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
see
Absolutely.
2 Goblin Shamans coming across, 4 damage, 2 treasure tokens, and Looter Scooter's still not at the corrupted point for the Skrelv's Hive, so they do not have lifelink quite yet. Looking like still considering playing this Iganjo as a land.
I
And
think having the farewell in hand in case things do get a little bit too crazy is great. I don't think I would play the farewell right now though, because you have Atraxa in your graveyard. So I guess if you don't exile graveyards, you're fine. But I think I might have just played the Invoke Justice here and gotten, a bunch of cards and an Atraxa on my board.
it looks like Looter is prioritizing playing an Atraxa next turn onto an empty board. That was quite a board wipe there. We see still some gas here in Josh's hand. They have a Jawbone Duelist and a Quarreling Chorus, as well as a Tarvar Stand to protect these threats. What are your thoughts on that play? Like doing a farewell and then hoping to play an Atraxa into a more controlled board, Zabracus. Do you think like getting rid of the Skrelv's Hives were worth it?
I mean, as someone who despises taking damage, I think it was a great play, particularly for the Skrelv's Hives, because that was something that Looter Scooter didn't necessarily have a good way around, right? Like they have lots of burn removal to get rid of creatures if they need to. There are other ways to get rid of creatures, but they don't have very many ways to get rid of enchantments. And that was definitely a way they could do it, even at their own demolishment of their own enchantments.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think that, just clearing that board and getting those hives off because, you don't want Josh to get to the point where, they have lifelink. So if you can get that off the board and then you're not having to worry about trying to, prevent toxic, prevent lifelink, I think it clears a lot of things up. And then you just have a giant 11/11 with flying vigilance and, all the goodies.
Yes, as we see a Gaia's Gift, the draw for turn. So a second Jawbone Duelist is going to come down. Atraxa as an 11/11. I mean, it was good enough as a 7/7, but Invoke Justice putting the 4+1/+1 counters onto it make it just that much better. And it has just way too many words on it. Josh is like, I've had enough. They don't want to see anymore. So we are going to move on to game number 3. Now, after a quick and convincing game number 1 from our Celestia Toxic player, we saw the Boros Reanimator deck, even though they took out a lot of their combo, kind of just take control there. Do you think any sideboarding changes are in order? It looks like Josh thinks no. Was there anything that interested you there, Misha?
Honestly, I think Josh had just too slow of a start, unfortunately, and I think that was kind of their downfall. But here we go. We have a turn 1 Venerated Rock Priest. I do think Looter having the Brotherhood's ends in her deck is what kind of also really stunted Josh's play.
Yes. We'll see. Already getting in there. Looter Scooter got that first toxic as a poison counter, excuse me, as the Venerated Rock Priest gets across Toxic 1, and we see Slaughter Singer with Toxic 2 going to be able to pump that Rock Priest with attacks here, and Looter Scooter can't do much about it quite yet. So 4 lands, a Farewell, a Brotherhood's End, and a Fable of the Mirror Breaker in hand, probably hoping that Brotherhood's End will help her live long enough to see the later turns of this game as she takes a few more damage, gets up to 4 poison and 15 life. That Bloated Contaminator is really scary because that's not going to die here. Any thoughts about how Looter Scooter is going to be able to survive these next turns, Zabracus?
I mean, hope that they can block enough so that they can get the Farewell to get rid of it. I mean, based on what they have in their hand right now, that's about all they can really hope to, is that they can survive for 2 more turns.
Yes. Having
that's a lot of lands.
Yeah, the Bloated Contaminator is already so strong and has Trample on top of that. Looter Scooter at 6 poison, going up to 12 life from the land, but that's not a lot. We'll see a double striking Jawbone Duelist. Gonna jump in front of it. But Josh has
Oof.
oh my goodness, that
Is that?
is
Oh my
a lot of
gosh.
damage. That is
Ah.
9, and Atraxa is the draw here. Going to discard now. Is there a chance that Looter Scooter can draw something here to get her back into the game?
No.
We'll see.
I mean, let's see, because they'll have 5 on the board. Even if they get a Wandering Emperor, they can minus the one thing, but then they still can't get rid of the other thing that will deal poison damage. I
And the
think.
Tyvar stand also
Ugh.
gives hexproof, so there's really it's looking like Looter Scooter is dead on board, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Wandering Emperor would be able to take care of one of these threats as long as Josh would allow it through the Tyvar stand. But good
Josh
games
does
are going
allow
to be
it, but
said.
it also
Josh
doesn't
allows it.
matter.
But that's said, you know what? You got me. You got my bloated contaminator, but I got you dead. So they are going to take down this matchup 2-1. So Celestia Toxic taking down Boros Reanimator. Josh moves on to 2-1. Looter Scooter onto 1-2. But like I said earlier, it's only week 3. Only week 3 of 10. Well, we're going to be playing 10 total weeks, but 7 weeks of round robin play. So well played, both of our players from Division 11. Congratulations on Josh moving up to 2-1, and
I
that was
wanna say
exciting.
one thing so far. In every game that we've seen every player's deck do its thing, right? Like we haven't had a
Right.
game yet where
Yes.
their deck just didn't do what it's supposed to do. We've had
Right.
every deck do their thing. You know, someone always has to lose, but it's always exciting when your deck does what it's designed to do. And I just want to
Yeah.
say, great games to both Josh and Looter Scooter.
Yeah, we've gotten game 3s out here. This has been great. This has been super exciting. We love the VML. VML is exciting every single season. If you want more information, make sure you're following us on Twitter, VML MTG. Make sure you're following us on YouTube. Sub to us on YouTube. Follow us here on Twitch because we're great. VML MTG. We're great. We have awesome guest casters and we're just phenomenal people. Yeah, to the point.
Just awesome casters in general.
Yes. And a big thanks again to Wizards of the Coast for sponsoring us, and GLHF, Megan and Maria, thank you so very much. I'm stoked. I cannot wait to get into this last. Well, I don't want to wait. I don't want it to be over though, but this is our last match of the evening. So I'm excited. We're going to see another Reanimator deck. So Reanimator is going to get to take another shot at this. We're going to see Atraxa once again. We're also going to see an Orzhov mid-range deck here in match number 4. We're going to take a look first at Reanimator. And now this is quite a bit different than the last Reanimator deck we were looking at. You can see this is a base Rakdos, and Cruelty of Gix is our big reanimation spell here. But Atraxa is still the main piece, but we see a very traditional, otherwise Rakdos mid-range deck. You're seeing your Shieldred, Fable and Mirror Breaker, Blood Tithe Harvester, Go for the Throat, Reckoner Bankbusters. We got some Lilianas there, I guess, to help kind of discard your reanimation targets. It's just like a Rakdos mid-range deck with a small Reanimator package. Do you think that one game plan is more powerful than the other, Zabracus? What do you think about the Reanimator plan versus the Grixis? Oh, sorry, excuse me, Rakdos mid-range, like Blood Tithe Harvester, Fable and Mirror Breaker into Shieldred. I hope I get to kill you now game.
I mean, it would be a great plan if the Orzhov deck didn't have a lot of exile outputs. If it was just destroy to get rid of things and they go in the graveyard, it could be a lot more powerful. But the fact that the Orzhov deck has the Wandering Emperor to exile things, it has I know there were other exile effects. Cathar Commando. I think the Eternal Wanderer does that too. Like all sorts of things to get rid of things permanently, and not just put them in the graveyard. But they do have some destroy effects too. So who knows? Maybe it'll all work out.
Maybe it will.
Mostly, I'm excited to see the Cruelty of Gix again.
One thing I'm excited about is that, we just saw Boros Reanimator, and now we're on Rakdos Reanimator, basically. Rakdos, this package comes with a bit more removal than Boros does. You still have the same red pieces, but like here we have Go for the Throat, The Blood Tithe Harvesters themselves are, some removal. But then you also have the cut down and duress. So I think this might have a better early game than the Boros one, just because you can get rid of some of those early game threats that, if you're trying to reanimate a Traxa, you're probably not going to do that until like maybe, I don't know, Gix's Cruelty is a turn 5. So I think this might have a better chance of surviving the early game.
Yeah, turn 4 if you're lucky with those Fable treasures. That's so that's about it. So I'm excited to see this one in play. And as we mentioned earlier, our other player, Zombae on Orzhov Midrange. So we can see front and center here, we have the brand new Planeswalker Kaya. So Kaya, Intangible Slayer, has hexproof. She's huge. She comes in 6 loyalty, costs 7 mana, it's 3 white, black. And it's something that I have not seen anyone attempt Kaya yet in a constructed shell. Zombae said that they were super excited to try to play it. Only reason they're playing Orzhov is because Kaya is hilarious. So I really want to know what they mean by hilarious. Like hilarious, like I love playing it and it's just so broken, it's funny, or like I just think the card is great, or I'm very curious to see exactly how this Kaya plays out. Any thoughts?
I think that Zombae just means that, that's just kind of a bonkers -3. Granted, Kaya's expensive. She's not a
Right.
cheap card to play. But, the fact that you can immediately just like exile it, make a token, and like do the effect again, that's pretty dang cool. Also, I just want to give a little note that I played a 2-headed giant game against the Kaya. Kaya's +2 and 2-headed giant is nasty. I got destroyed.
Oh, I can imagine. I also want to point out that Kaya has hexproof. That is
Oh, yeah,
amazing.
that
Like
too.
any planeswalker that can have hexproof. I want them all to have that, but not really.
I surely don't. That was rough. That was a rough game.
Yeah, and I'm definitely very interested to see this one in play though, because it's now she called it mid-range, but it seems like very controlling. There's a lot of planeswalkers here. We see Wandering Emperor, we see Invoke Despair, we see Eternal Wanderer, we see just
I think
Liliana
we're
of the
playing
Veil. A lot
Orzhov
of
Super Friends. I didn't know
right?
Kaya, that both Wanderers
There's
different
Yeah.
times, and
no
then Liliana
Yeah,
were
there's
pals.
1,
right.
2, 3,
There's
4, 5, 6, 7, 8 planeswalker cards.
yes,
Did I,
and
did I math right?
only 6 creatures in this deck. It's 4 Cathar Commandos, which are more just like enchantment removal against like Fable and things like that. Can attack, obviously. And at 3/1, it's not a small body. And then 2 Sheoldred the Apocalypse. So definitely interested to see this one going. A couple more creatures in the sideboard in cards like Loran, but I want to see this happen. So
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
I think this package is going to heavily rely on gain and drain. Drain and gain. That, yeah.
Either way,
Exactly.
6 one way, half dozen the other. Chris Patello, rating with a party of 74. Thank you so much for your support of the VML. So happy to have you here. If you are new here, give us a follow. We are the VML. We are a 10-week-long Magic the Gathering Arena League. We showcase the talents of amazing people of marginalized genders within the Magic community. This is week number 3. This is our final match of the evening. We're going to be watching a Reanimator deck versus an Orzhov mid-range deck. Give us a follow here on Twitter, on YouTube. You don't want to miss a moment of the action. And speaking of the action, let's get into it. We're watching from the side of Dafta. He is our Reanimator player. And on the top, we have Zombae on Orzhov mid-range. And we see
It's a
Mama
nice pickup for
Atraxa.
Dafta, getting that
Yes.
Bankbuster on 2. That's when you want it.
Right, getting that card advantage against a deck like Orzhov. How important! I see Bankbusters on both sides. These deck lists. What is the importance of card advantage in this matchup between Orzhov Midrange and Reanimator? What do you think, Zab?
It is so important for both decks. but especially for the Orzhov deck because, the Atraxa deck, because I mean, if they have their Lily out, then they're going to be discarding a lot. And so they need to have that draw engine. But I mean, that's what Shieldred does as well. Essentially, their deck, they have to discard a lot to draw a lot. And the Reckoner helps with that so that they can bring a bazillion things out of their graveyard.
I'm just going to say, I kind of love that. We saw Zombae flash in that Cathar commando, but didn't have the 1 mana left open. So Dafta was able to kill it with a cut down before it destroyed that Reckoner Bankbuster. So Bankbuster is going to be able to draw some cards here. We see Zombae's hand, a cut down, a Shieldred, and 4 lands. One of those lands being a Mirrex, but still 4 lands. So what kind of position do you think Zombae's in this game so far?
Well, I mean, getting Shieldred out is great. It's not so great when your opponent has a sacrifice effect in hand. Of course,
Yes.
Zombae doesn't know that, but we do. Or, it doesn't even have to be the sacrifice. Could just be the straight up kill because Zombae is tapped out.
Yeah, we'll see. Go for the throat, taking care of that Shieldred. And Cathartic Pyre, one of the cards that Dafta was probably looking for here. He can now loot away that Atraxa to bring back with Cruelty of Gix later on, if he so desires. We'll see
Yeah.
what he decides to do here.
Well, if I were Dafta, I think I'd Cathartic Pyre, get rid of the Atraxa, draw a card with the Bankbuster, and then be ready next turn for that Cruelty. Get more cards, get more
Absolutely.
advantage.
We'll see. Dafta definitely putting some thought into this next play because this will shape the way the rest of this game could go. Obviously, not aware that Zombae has 3 lands and a cut down in hand. Just knows that Zombae, she's got 4 cards in hand. So got to make sure to make the correct play here. Got to put a little bit of thought into it. And it looks like I'm going to start by drawing a card, and it's a second copy of Cruelty of Gix before that land comes down, and just going to pass the turn back.
Yeah, if I were Dafta, what's better than the first Reanimator spell? The second one.
And I mean, yeah, Cathartic Pyre is an instant, so they didn't even necessarily need to play it on their own turn.
Yes. So we see Cathartic Pyre going to happen here. Discard up to 2 cards, and then you draw that many cards. So there's a saga here. We see Cruelty of Gix coming down. Now, do you think it looks like we're going to read right ahead, skip to the ending, go right for dessert, right to the Atraxa?
Absolutely.
Why bother now? Atraxa is an enters the battlefield trigger and not a cast trigger, so we will see Atraxa trigger here.
And that cut down in Zombae's hand, that will not hit Atraxa. That power toughness is way too big.
What's also nasty is Dafta could use a Cruelty on their next turn to bring back that Shieldred of Zombaes, and
or just
so dirty.
get their own.
Yes,
there are 2 Atraxas on board.
Many.
They have a Shieldred in there.
Yeah, their own Shieldred.
Yes.
Well, but it's so much more like flavorful to steal your opponent. Just like, ha ha. My Shieldred
and
now.
then we're gonna take Zombae's, cut down either way.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
right. Not that much of a loss on Zombae's side, to be fair, but definitely still pouring salt into the wound here. Okay, you have a 7/7 with flying, vigilance, death touch, and lifelink, and you just drew 5 cards.
Yeah, the saddest part, I think, for Zombae is that Zombae knows what Dafta just took out of their deck, so they know if they go for the throw their own Shieldred, the Liliana. So even if they played, or like she played the Shieldred onto the board, yeah, game 2.
Game
it
number
is always
2.
So painful when you have to concede and you still have 20 life.
Right. Just save time, save that energy, focus it into the next 2 games, or game. Hopefully, we'll see if there's 2 games or not. So we will see as we move to sideboarding. We're taking a look first at Dafta in this Rakdos Reanimator deck.
Took out the cut down. Nothing's that small apparently, so no more cut downs. I think some braids came in.
Right. Definitely a minimal amount of creature removal. As we said earlier, that Zombae only has 4 Cathar Commandos and 2 Shieldreds in the list. And we'll see if she decides to board in some extra creatures here, things like Loran, Edgar, or Ale. So we'll see what
We're
happens.
definitely seeing those hearses come in.
Yes.
That
I
great.
like
If you
seeing
get
the stone brain come in. Go ahead.
No, I think that's great. There's definitely some good options here for Zombae in the sideboard. One of the cards mentioned was the Stone Brain. For those of you who don't know, it is a legendary artifact, 2 mana. You pay 2 and you tap it. You exile the Stone Brain. You choose a card name. You search the target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for up to 4 cards with that name and exile them. The player shuffles and draws a card for each card exiled from their hand that way, but you can only activate as a sorcery. Now, it is important to note that this doesn't deal with cards that are in play already. So it's just graveyard, hand, and library. But if it
against
can,
the Reanimator deck, that's pretty good.
yeah, if it can nip it in the bud, then that's what we want to see here on the side of Zombae. As we see it, Dafta, he's going to ship back that first 7 card hand and keep this 6, which is definitely an interesting looking. Atraxa looks so out of place here. It's
Yeah,
like, oh,
that first hand unfortunately would have just been way too slow. You don't want that many lands.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you kind of had that same problem. Not really that was a problem, but I mean, now it might have been. Would have had your 5th land on your first draw.
and now we see Zombae starting with an unlicensed hearse and a Cathar Commando in hand. Can just play out this hearse. How big of a play is this for Zombae in this second game, Zabracus?
I mean, considering they're against a Reanimator deck, that's huge if they can keep it on the board. Like, because every single turn they're going to be able to get rid of 2 cards from Daft's graveyards, like Atraxa, if it's discarded, and they'll just be gone forever. But
Let's
that's
see.
if Zombae can keep it on the board.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And we do see Dafta having a Brotherhood's End. Now, besides being able to deal 3 damage to all of the creatures that are on the sideboard, there is a second mode on Brotherhood's End that is a little bit rarer to see. It is destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. That would include Dafta's blood token, which it looks like he is sacrificing right now anyway.
Yeah, I can't
But-
can't get rid of it if I sack it first, right?
Right, exactly.
I was also gonna say, when you asked about the hearse versus the Cathar, that last game, Zombae played Cathar on 2 and was punished for it. So I don't think I'd want to do that again.
Yes, you see Zombae happy to. There's a nice curve in unlicensed hearse into Liliana the Veil, being able to kill Dafta's only threat for now. So keeping the board pretty clean is probably something that Zombae is looking for more than Dafta, would you say, Misha? Or do you think it's the other way around where Dafta kind of just wants to keep the board clean from what Zombae is trying to do? I feel like I don't know if these are 2 ships passing in the night because it looks like they're trying to interact with each other, but they're also kind of going for the same like goal, like the big, I want to cast my 7 mana planeswalker. I want to cast my 7 mana creature. Who do you think wants to who's the beat down here, I guess is what we're going for.
I think Zombae, it's more important for Zombae to have Dafta's side be empty because Zombae's trying to keep planeswalkers alive. Their whole deck relies on having these planeswalkers, and if Dafta has a board full of creatures or just even multiple creatures that provide threats that can threaten those, planeswalkers, Zombae's going to have a hard time, winning this game if, she can't keep those planeswalkers alive,
Yes. We'll see. Dafta normally being like, yeah, heck, I'll discard a card, but with that unlicensed hearse in play, it's gonna say I'm gonna discard my mountain. Not wanting to give up that Atraxa. We'll see. Go for the throat. Going to take care of this Cathar Commando, perhaps, and that will happen. And passing back of the turn, and we just see the Brotherhood's End, a Sulfur Springs, and an Atraxa in Dafta's hand. Is it time to unleash the Brotherhood's End? What do you think, Zab?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, Dafta doesn't really have like a whole lot of other options in hand. They cannot discard Atraxa until that hearse is gone, without Atraxa just being gone forever. And I mean, yeah, they lose some things, and with Lily on the board, they're going to be able to discard that Atraxa probably pretty quickly, and they're not going to feel sorry about it even a little bit.
Yeah,
So
with that hearse, that just destroys Dafta's entire strategy. And so you can't really move forward until you take care of that singular threat.
So do you think there's a world where Zombae would use Liliana's secret fourth ability and not do anything? Like, is that
Liliana has a
is
secret fourth ability.
right?
What?
Yeah, it's don't do anything. It's like don't activate Liliana.
Oh, I mean,
Excuse me while I look this up because I don't think I've ever seen that activated.
No, I'm saying no. I'm saying right. It's just stand very still and don't. Yeah, just leave my Liliana at 2 or something. Now, because we see here Dafta able to draw the cruelty of Gix, and Zombie going, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, that was
helped
the
for
top deck
attraction.
that Dafta really wanted to see and was
Zombie did
rewarded for
not.
waiting.
that's wild.
Zombie did not want to see that, but Atraxa has gone onto the battlefield and replenished Dafta's hand. So even if Zombae is able to take care of the Atraxa, Dafta still has a reload here of Cathartic Pyre, Reckoner, Bankbuster, Cruelty, another Cruelty of Gix, and a Liliana the Veil. So we'll see the Liliana minus to take care of the Atraxa, but now it's just back in the graveyard again.
Yeah, I know Zombae, she's probably thinking, okay, they can't have another Reanimator spell in hand just yet, right? But that's what Atraxa went and got. So that's what we'd hope not to have in hand, but we very obviously
Well,
have
but
one.
it was revealed, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the problem, is that we know that that's in hand, so it hurts to take out the Atraxa, but you also can't leave it on the board.
Yes.
Right. Would you get? I want you both to clarify, but I believe if Dafta can't get rid of it, the Eternal Wanderer could make it go away on Zombae's next turn.
So the Eternal Wanderer, the tick up, you exile up to one target artifact or creature, but you return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of that player's next end step. So you would just basically be flashing it for Dafta, doing them a favor.
I was thinking the -4 because it's at 5 loyalty, right? Or am I not seeing it right? I could very well not be seeing it right.
Dafta would have to have 2 creatures. Dafta would have to have 2 creatures because you choose a creature that player controls, and then each player sacrifices all creatures they controlled not chosen. So if Dafta had
this
2
is why I need to read the
creatures,
card. This is why
don't
I
worry,
have you guys.
I have them pulled up on a second screen, so I'm reading them.
So we'll see. Dafta does have some choices to make here. Reckoner Bankbuster can draw some cards. Liliana can take care of the double striker because Dafta, we have to look at his life total. He's at 8. Like, that's kind of scary. So we'll see. Thinking about Bankbuster, maybe Cathartic Pyre, maybe, and it looks like deciding to go with the Bankbuster. Perhaps
I think having that Pyre up to take out your 2/2 double striker, well, yeah, you're gonna have to Pyre pretty fast because otherwise you might not have it.
Oof.
Ooh.
Gotta pirate right now.
Yes, we'll see. Duress. Gonna take a little looky-loo here. Gonna Pyre first. So Pyre to deal with the 2/2 double striker, going to allow either Cruelty of Gix or Liliana to hit the bin, and the Cruelty of Gix makes sense. Will hit the bin, and Liliana will get that last card, which is also Liliana. And so a lone Reckoner Bankbuster on the battlefield for Dafta, which can draw cards, but it doesn't feel so good in their lands. And we see the Eternal Wanderer make another 2/2 double striking token, and another land is the draw for Dafta. It is a cycling land, so it is a redraw, but that still can't feel too good.
No, because even if you cycle it, it's a cycle for 3, and then you're left with 1 mana. So I think the only thing in Dafta's deck for 1 is maybe cut down in a duress, but I think they, cited the cut downs out. So
we see Mirix at the draw on the side of Zombae as well. So a nice mana sink for when games go long, just like this one here. We'll see Liliana tick up. One of the lands from Dafta's hand will hit the bin. That 2/2 is going to get in here. So Dafta, he's going to drop down to 6 and then to 4.
Nasty little double strike.
Oof,
And
those double strike. Those are some nasty
yeah.
nasty little tokens.
Eternal Wanderer going to blink the Reckoner Bankbuster. So Zayator's Proving Ground cycling another land and another land. That's 4 lands in a row for Dafta. And unfortunately, that most likely means that there could be a redraw on the Reckoner Bankbuster when it comes back into play. But Dafta says, I can't do this. So he's going to scoop them up. And we're going to move on to game number 3. So we get another game 3 here tonight. Super exciting night here in the VML week 3. I guess it's a week 3 thing. It's week 3.
Yeah,
Everybody
week
plays
3,
game 3.
Every game is a
Hey, there
game
you go.
3.
It was meant to be.
It was.
We had our 20-20-20. Now we have a 3-3-3-3.
I love it. I love how it's working. And now we see, moving on to game number 3, we see minimal sideboard changes from games 2 to 3 here from our players.
These are great
And
openers for both hands.
Yes. I think Dafta definitely wanted to see that 3rd land, which we did, and so we're both off to the races.
Yeah, Dafta gonna play that
I just
tap
want
land out.
to point out the fact that Dafta did sideboard in the Volatile Arsonist. It's a one-off on their sideboard, and they decided to put it in.
Yes, a Volatile Arsonist, a 5 mana, costs 3 red for a 4/4 menace haste. Whenever it attacks, it deals 1 damage each of up to 1 target creature, up to 1 target player, and or up to 1 target planeswalker. And it does have the daybound. That is the daybound side for Volatile Arsonist.
Yeah, Nightbound only gets worse.
It's true. If we do get to see the Nightbound side, it has, it's a Dire Strain Anarchist, has menace and haste, is a 5/5, and whenever it attacks, it deals 2 damage up to one of each target creature. Up to 1 target creature, up to 1 target player, and up to 1 target planeswalker. So it's a lot of damage coming across. If we get to see that flipping happen, we'll see a Bloodtithe Harvester on the side of Dafta and a very active wedding announcement on the side of Zombae with a Liliana of the Veil as well. So that Liliana pretty protected here.
Also, I just want to say a quick note. Thank you so much, 801 Faithin, for all of the gift subs to the channel. We appreciate that so much.
Oh my goodness. Aw. Faithin, thank you.
All right, Dafta gonna play out that Reckoner Bankbuster with that Liliana on board. Getting more cards in hand is gonna be vital for Dafta's survival.
Yes, we'll see Liliana come down. Got a discard here. Now it is worth it to note that Zombie's got 5. Well, we'll have 4 cards in hand to Dafta's 2. So card advantage has been a thing in this matchup so far. You know, the person with more cards in hand has tended to do a little bit better in this matchup. So it's not, neither of these decks are looking to empty their hand like a mono red deck or any sort of like aggressive deck. These decks are ready to play the long game. So
that's interesting that Zombae is flashing out the Cathar Commando main phase. You know, they're not flashing it out, just playing it just to get rid of that Bankbuster.
They want to get rid of that card draw, it seems.
Yeah, no opportunity to draw a card.
That's what I think makes the most sense, but
you're right. Zombae does also have that unlicensed hearse in hand, which I think she may be waiting until Dafta puts that Atraxa in the graveyard to play it out. You know, thinking, you know, Dafta might think they're safe. They're not.
Right? Well, but that doesn't know is a little scary here because we do see Atraxa hit the bin, and Zombie is probably doing a little dance, being like, "Yes,
that's what I've been waiting for."
Exactly what they were looking for. And Dafta draws a swamp off that, but chooses to hold the swamp. Now, could play the swamp to be able to play the Volatile Arsonist next turn and just discard, go for the throw to Liliana, but it's just going to hold it until they can play the land and the creature at the same time. But Liliana going to just say, I'm out. I'm done. I'm just gonna take care of your Blood Tithe Harvester and hit the bin myself. What do you think about that play, Misha?
Honestly, if you're gonna clear Dafta's board, Zombae has cards that she doesn't want to lose. Liliana doesn't discriminate. You both have to discard. So honestly, clearing Dafta's board and losing her, not the worst thing, especially when you need to get some more mana to play that Wanderer and Kaya.
All right. We'll see Unlicensed Hearse on the side of Zombae. A second copy of Atraxa was the draw here for Dafta. So one in the bin, one in the hand. But Volatile Arsonist it's a big attacker. But Zombae has a pretty nice board with all those 2/2s. That is damage that cannot be dismissed. Do you think she's do you think that Zombae has a handle on this game right now, or do you think Dafta needs to be more aggressive and turn the corner? What are your thoughts, Zabracus?
I think Zombae has a pretty decent handle on the board state. However, she's still stuck at only 4 lands. And since Volatile Arsonist does have the day-night, whatever you want to call it, it forces Zombae to have to play something each turn. Otherwise, it becomes a werewolf, monstrosity, awfulness. And considering Zombae doesn't have any small things in hand, beyond children, if we even consider her small, that thing could flip. Like there's a good chance it could flip soon.
Yeah, it could flip. Also, if I were Dafta, I'd be in a kind of worried spot because you have these 2/2s coming through right now, and that hearse is only going to get real big, and it only costs 2 to crew the hearse. So one of those tiny little 2/2s, it can say, we hopping in the death machine and we going for a ride, and it's going to be a big ride.
That is the truth.
I'm dying.
It only picks up more bodies as it goes.
And that is exactly what it's going to do here as it exiles 2 more cards out of Dafta's graveyard. And he is keeping the 4/4 back this turn. So on blocking duty, but Eternal Wanderer here going to come back down on the side of Zombae. And let's see what Zombae decides to do with it.
I think that might be game with the... Well, no. So
the
those still only
edict, no, it is.
6?
Yeah, no, the edict, because it's you get to choose what you sacrifice. So if you crew, you can sacrifice your tapped creature, and this should be lethal, I believe.
I think if they do a non-token creature, they have to sacrifice the hearse. It's okay.
Yeah.
So this is still a very nice attack for 4, and also Zombae will still be able to eat 2 things out of Dafta's graveyard, but the writing's on the wall. Dafta's got to draw something here. I don't know. The Blood Tithe Harvester is going to do it. That's
the Arsonist will come back at the end, but I don't think, because then you can have the Wanderer just blink it again.
Just exile it again, yeah.
On that, with that Kaya in hand, we're not going to see Zombae be able to cast that. So
I was so hoping we'd get that Kaya on the board.
At least she's on the screen.
If Zombae draws 1 more mana, there's a chance that she'll cast it before lethal. Who knows?
Oh,
man,
that card came a turn too late.
Right, we see Cruelty of Gix, the draw off the Blood Loot from Blood Tithe Harvester. Eternal Wanderer gonna plus again and gonna get in for 6 damage, able to block 2, but being at 3 life. Dafta gonna take lethal here, and Zombae is going to take down that matchup. Orzhov Midrange over Reanimator. That was impressive. 2 games to 1, and good games to both of our players. So that is going to wrap up our week 3 here. That was exciting. There's a lot of amazing matches. We got to watch 4 matches. We got to see 4 game 3s. The first one being live here on the VML, a new thing that we are trying out this season. Give us a shout out if you like that. But
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I thought it was super exciting. But wow, what a night. I mean, I know it doesn't seem like it because we are, we do play for 10 weeks, but round robin play is only 7 weeks long. We're in week 3. So we're just about halfway through the season already, if you can believe it. And if you don't want to miss a moment of the action, make sure you are following us, VML MTG, on Twitter. We are at twitch.tv/VML MTG. We're on YouTube, VML MTG. Look up our Discord community is second to none. Fantastic people. You want more information? ! VML MTG in chat. It's a phenomenal place to be, a phenomenal community to be a part of, and I consider myself very lucky to be able to know and work with some of these wonderful people. And speaking of wonderful people, I would like to say goodnight to my fellow casters. I have the lovely Zabracus and the lovely Mishamigo. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Misha, tell us where we can find you, what else you do. So
Sure.
give us a little something.
Yeah, here's my little plug. I am Magic Mishamigo over on Instagram and Twitter. I like playing on Arena. I like playing Commander. I like hanging out here and doing commentary with these lovely people. So yeah, that's me. I sometimes cosplay. I did a Fibblethip one time, and it was great. So if you haven't seen that, Nicole, I'll send you a picture. It's cursed, but I love him.
I have a totally lost that I keep in my wallet. Like, I love Fibblethip. He's my favorite. So
there might be a playmat and stuff coming soon of me as Fibblethip. So keep an eye on that.
I need it.
That's so exciting. Yeah, there's wants and then there's needs, and that's a need. So
yeah, there should be an altar sleeve soon. So as well. So there's a few things in the works.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I'm excited to see these.
Yes. And Zabracus, let's shout it out. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I am Zabracus. I am on all the social medias that you probably use. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, all the things. I'm there. Follow me on all of them. I'm Zabracus on all of them. Zabracus. I will be streaming on Twitch again regularly starting next week. So if you've missed my arena shenanigans and Seagull shenanigans, they will be happening again starting next week. So
you're a certified Seagull streamer.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And I once again am Nicole Callahan at LadyoftheCrease on Twitter. I actually don't do too many socials. I feel like I should break out into like the Instagram and TikToks and all the things the kids are doing nowadays. But you can also find me on FAM Podcast. It's FAM_podcast. We do fun magic podcasts every other week. We just came back from a small hiatus, and that came out today. So that's super exciting. And I am also captain of Arclight Gaming. You can find us on Twitter as well. And to wrap things up, I just want to say a big thank you once again to Wizards of the Coast for their sponsorship. They are wonderful. They have supported us here at the VML pretty much since very early on. So we could not be where we are without Wizards. And again, to GLHF, good luck, high five. Fantastic. I love Maria and Megan are just such wonderful people, and we appreciate their support every single season. They're great. A big thanks to our admin team, the rest of our casting team, all of our players, all of our viewers. A big thank you to Chris Botello for the big raid earlier. A big thank you again to Faithin for the gifted subs earlier. And I just want to give a quick shout out to the person I am most thankful for every single week, our lovely Miss Phoebe behind the scenes. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how we can support you too, Phoebe. I know you're listening. Phoebe's my favorite.
She's the best.
I seriously though, I'm actually sort of in the middle of rearranging a few things, so I have not been streaming all that much. But I am at twitch.tv/CodeIndigo. And yeah, about it.
So show Phoebe some love. Our behind the scenes. I don't know what we would do without her. So she is phenomenal. You are all phenomenal. And we hope to see you back here next week, Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific for week number 4 of VML action. Have a wonderful night, everybody.
Good night.